Actually, my talk is a bit overlapping with Mary, what you just said before, but actually we do have some observations which are different from yours. So I think it makes the thing more interesting. Okay, so that is Hong Kong, just especially for those people who are first comers into Hong Kong. It is 1,000 square kilometers. We have about 7.4 million people. Very packed, very congested. But what I say in Hong Kong is a wonderful place. It's so small, but it is a wonderful natural laboratory to study anything about mankind. Because everything is we have the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I think we have that is the 1961. I think that is a proper June. Now you have not seen yourself there yet, right? Okay, so here you go. I think it goes very fast. Right? I think that is what happened in 1991, 2021, and then that's where we are. Now that is a population pyramid. Right? Now when you look at this, does it look good? It can be better, right? But when we look at a bit further, it looks like that. Now that's like a Toronto. I mean that is like this sort of things go over. It causes a lot of damage. And then when you're 2041, that is what is going to happen. 2051, if we are still alive, right? We are somewhere at the top there, right? But what we have seen is that is the prediction. That is the prediction based on the present trajectory. Now, if we do not want to see that, we can do something now. Don't wait for until 2051. So when we want to do 2051, it is too late. So now that is in Hong Kong. I think we have the situation at the age of 2020, and then we have this sort of the number of birth, the number of death outnumber number of the number of death outnumber number of birth. So I think we experience a natural loss, and it's just going to be widened and widened. And then there's a lot of people that like to place a bet on what happened to the fertility in 2024, because in Hong Kong then we have a dragon year. The dragon year, everybody expects to have more babies. But I think my bet is not even if there's any increase, but the number of births still will be lower than the number of deaths. So what happened? That is not only a Hong Kong problem. I think in Taiwan, in Singapore, Japan, and South Korea, I think we have the same problem. So the migration is coming into town. Now in Japan, I think the migration, the impact is quite small. I think relatively speaking. So I think you can see this graph before. I think what we have seen, I think in Hong Kong, I think in Japan, and then all have a free flow. I think in 1965, I think in the Family Planning Association, we still advise the people not to have many children, right? The 2 will be the maximum, 3, you're going to kill yourself, okay? So, but once you go to 2020, but then now the government said, hey, can the Family Planning Association encourage the people to have more babies, right? So, but it actually, I think the small family size, it has become the norm, I think in Hong Kong and in many high-income societies in Asia already. But when you see the other country, in France, in Belgium, I think they are not starting that low, but they actually do remain at a level, I think at about around the replacement level, which is 2.1. So in Hong Kong, so it is kind of like this. I think we are starting, I think from more than, 90,000 births, and then it's right now, I think it's going to about 30,000. So, and then the bet, that's what we're going to see the 2024, what is going to go. Now, in our projection, I think the TFR have already fallen into what we call the fertility trap. And then unless there's some magic power, that it will bounce out. Otherwise, I think it will remain there, and it will stay there. It will stay there for a long time. Yeah. So I think what we see, I think it is the cohort fertility. So it is not only a tempo effect; it is a quantum drop as well. Although there's some sort of catch-up here, but this catch-up is that it doesn't compensate, I think, for the significant reduction, I think especially for the age group from 20, I think, to 29. So we say that it is not a tempo effect, so it is a quantum drop. So it is the magnitude, and then that is the speed. The tempo is not temporary. Okay. So now also I think for the low fertility rate, it raised, I think, to our aging problem. Aging, you age, my age. But this aging is not become linear already. I think it will become, there's a tangent, there's a point of deflection here, and it's going to take up, and it's going to take up fast, and it's going to be a one-way traffic, and it goes very fast. So this is what we call population tsunami. So I think now, I think we are having about 21% of the population which is age 65 or above, and then I think in 2036, I think we are talking about 1/3. So I think it's going to have a big impact. Now then what we like to do is we like to look at what happened, why our fertility can come down from 90,000, I think drop to, I think it's only 30,000. We're looking at the Hong Kong marital disproportion. You can see in the 1981, by 30 to 34, this age group, at that time is really, I think 70% or more than 80% they get married already. But where you can see in Hong Kong, right here, it's at 20%, 52%. So I think there's a very significant reduction of the marital disproportion. And also we're looking at the marital fertility rate is among these married women. And now we can see, I think the marital fertility rate itself from 25 to 29 is also, there's a significant drop. But it actually, in this sort of high age, it actually the drop is not that significant. It actually, there's some sort of rebound, I think, among the older age. And also we talk about the marriage, I think, so-called out of the wedlock. And then what you can see, I think, in the later years, and it is quite small. And then in the 1981, I think it's because of the contraceptive use or whatsoever, so they have a relative high rate here. But what we like to see is this, that, hey, if you're looking at the change of the TFR is some of the age-specific rates, right? So the TFR, I think, is represent the number of children given birth by a woman in his lifetime. What we can do, we do the decomposition into 3 components. This one is related to the married female, the proportion of the married females, and this one related to the non-marital fertility rate, and this one is the fertility rate. So what we like to do is the differences of this fertility rate, what are the major contributions? Now, because of this composition, we can quantify the amount, the extent of the reduction. How much is this contributed by that? So now, let's see what the data speak. Now, when we see the 1981 to 1996, when our TFR would come down from 1.993 to 1.367, what you can see, there is a reduction, and then 51% of the reduction of that amount is due to the reduction of the marital fertility rate. And then for this one is the proportion of the married, and then the 70%. Now, when you see this as a negative number here, it actually, there's a period of time, although that rebound is not big, but it is a positive number. But then you can see, I think the marital proportion is still contributed to the reduction. So when we see from 1981 to 2021, from 1.993 to 0.772, now it actually is 69% of a reduction is due to less people, I think, they get married. So now, then what happened to Japan? I think Mary has given a very interesting story about Japan. It actually, when we look at the data from Japan, they come from a very similar situation. It has come down, and it also there's some sort of rebound here, and then it's also coming down. I think in Japan, I think the top of the TFR is about 1.2, and then we have 0.772. Okay, so we are still losing by them by 60%. Now, that is the Japan figures. The Japan figure 25 to 29, that's the age-specific fertility rate. You can see a very significant drop here. And actually, when you see 35 to 39, and then also the 30 to 34, it doesn't come down. It actually is just going up. So, when we apply the same decomposition, just looking at the proportion of the married female, you can see in 1980, I think in the age group 25 to 29, I think there's 75%, but now it's gone to 32%. And then this is 30 to 34, from 88%, now it's gone to 57%. Now you can see the changes. Now when you're looking at the marital fertility rate, they have not come down at all. They remain as a very high level. So what it means that among those people who get married, they still produce baby. But I think the trump card is that there are more and more people, they do not get married. So when I do the decomposition, of course, when you look at Japan, it's also a very conservative society. I think the birth out of the wedlock is still quite small. Right? So you can see the number is even smaller than in Hong Kong. Now, what happened? When you're looking at the decomposition here, then you can see now, because of the time, you can see the changes of here from 1.738 to 1.258. It actually, I think 202%, they are due to the delayed or the non-marital operation. It is nothing about the marital fertility. So for those people who got married, they do produce baby. So I think that what we need to do is to work on those people to encourage them, I think, to get married. So we do the elasticity analysis of the fertility rate in the 5 Asian society, and then we build up the stochastic models, and then to look at this, and then what we can see, once again, it is the marriage rate which gives the highest changes. So that does look at the per unit change of the parameters and how does it change the TFR. So once again, it says the marriage rate of 25 to 29, whether it is in Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea. And also, we are working on the fertility rate, and then the blue in color one, it is disparity from 0 to 1. So we have to work on for those people who do not have children to have 1 child. If you can manage to work on this, this will have the highest impact. Now there's a lot of emphasis to promote these people to have 2 children, to have 3 children. I still remember in Australia, when actually the TFR is not small. They have already got 1.7 or 1.8. But at that time, I think the treasurer, and then say that, well, every Australian, you need to have 3 babies. And then they say, what for? You know, 1 for yourself, 1 for your grandparents, the third one for Australia. You know? But I'm not sure it works well in Hong Kong. You know? But anyway, so what happened, there's a lot of effort. It is to put on from 1 to 2, because I think they get additional money, I mean, to encourage you to have 1 to 2. But it actually, the most important thing is to get married. And secondly, from 0 to 1. I think these will have the highest impact, I think, on the TFR. And also we're looking at the ideal parities here. I think that is the actual parity, and then there's the ideal parity. I think that is the question we asked from the Family Planning Association when we asked the married women, if you have no worry whatsoever, how many children do you want to have? I think that is what happened. But now actually, I think they will have less baby. All right, now this is the work done by Yiming. That's my PhD student. And then we looking at using a latent caste classification, I think, to identify, because what we believe, all the married women, they are a heterogeneous group, right? I think they are not, you cannot expect there's a one silver bullet, I think, can solve the fertility problem. So we like to understand what sort of measure that will change the mind and heart of the women. So in our latent class profiling, and then we found out that among the 15 measures that is proposed in our survey, and then we found out that there are 51%, they are high specific, so they are easy to change. And then there are 18.6% medium to change. But there are some hardcore group of women. Even you put $1 million on my table, I'm not going to do anything. So I think when we do the policy, we have to understand, I think, what are the concerns of the women. And then in order to have a more focused, effective measure to address, I think, this load. So I think these are the questions. I think there's some economic measure, and then there's some working arrangement, and there is some sort of so-called, and how do you make the education, I think, for the women. I think what we are concerning, I think in Hong Kong, I think the raising a baby is very expensive. I think we are worried about the education, we are talking about the responsibility. I think these are the real data. So we can see, I think there's 3 groups of people. I think the age, I think for those people who are more high susceptible, they are relatively younger, and actually these are the people who have better communication with their spouse. They talk about the number of children. You expect you have a better relationship, and usually I think they also have the housework contribution. It seems that these are the people, I think, who have a more the gender equity, mean the men and the women, I think they equally, I think they share the workload, education, and then the willingness to get. And actually, I think the sex life they are also more satisfied. Okay, the infidelity might not be that. Okay, so when we're talking about the comparison of profile cases, the high susceptibility, the medium one, and then the no one, and what we believe that I think whenever we have any policy, I think we have to understand women, we have to understand their concern, and then we need to come up with more focused intervention. And actually, in our survey, we also collect the data from the husband as well. Actually, the proportion they are quite similar. So at the end of the day, so we have to looking at the global fertility decline. It seems that it has become the norm now. There's no way you can change it, and then we have to, one way or the other, we have to live with a very low fertility society. Either you use the automation, you use other things, I think, to compensate, I think, for the loss of the so-called workforces. I think for the marriage, I think it is very difficult. I remember when I was given a talk in Peking University 2 weeks ago, and then when we talk about the marriage, and then they say that, I don't know why, it's just the boys we are not doing very well, the girls, they are not interested in getting married. So I think the boys work harder, okay? So, and I think the policy, I think is very important. I think we have to understand their concern. It seems that, I think like the housing concession, I think the finance, I think these are the major concern. I think look at the fertility trajectory. I think in the high-income society in Asia, I think that there's something that we have to work on. So, and then when we talk about this population challenge, we always reminded by the Hong Kong government is that, hey, Paul, you worry too much. We have only 7 million people here, right? There are 70 million people here, right? So in the Great Belt Area, which is true. So I think to promote this sort of this communication, it will help. But actually, as a matter of fact, in China, in mainland China, they also experience a very low fertility rate as well. So I think that is, so we have to look broader. I always say remain hope. It's very important. When you have hope, and then you will get married. When you have hope, then you will have baby. Okay, thank you very much.